Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and carmy, presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin, here with Barrett Dudley to digest and discuss The Bear, Season 3, Episodes 1 through 5. Barrett, how we doing, Chef?
We're doing all right, but before we launch into this podcast, and even say anything more, I got to lay down my non-negotiables with you.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And that's no repeat podcasts.
Ever?
Vibrant collaboration.
Oh, God.
Of the place.
Sure.
Just you have to of the place. That's number one.
That one's a given.
That's a given. Consolidation and speed. It's speed on the podcast. That's what matters. That's what people come to the podcast for.
Every second counts.
Confidence and competence. We have to be a competent podcast. No more
incompetence.
Incompetence and egregious errors such as forgetting that Mariko had a son. No more, Ross. It's a non-negotiable. What about you? What about you? Any non-negotiables?
Just speaking of things we forgot. Remember how we were trying to remember? I can't remember if it was on Patreon or on one of our ad-based episodes, but we were like, "How did Rhaegal die?"
Yeah.
The irony is that
was that they
Danny forgetting
also forgot.
about the Iron Fleet is how Rhaegal died.
Yeah.
We forgot that she forgot that resulted in the death. But yes, no more forgetting.
Forgetting begets forgetting. That's right. And that's another non-negotiable is the pursuit of excellence. And details matter and know your shit. Those are all non-negotiables. Those are all part of Carmy's non-negotiables. And we need to do a better job of applying those to the most important thing in life, which is podcasting.
Yes, Chef.
Yeah.
I see you brought your computer today.
I did.
Which is weirding me out a little bit. Is this in honor of the computer?
It should be. It should be in honor of the computer.
I mean, it's been months and months since I've seen you bring a computer in here.
Well, yeah. So generally, I don't feel the need for the computer.
But you've been watching these episodes for several weeks,
and you have the computer.
I do. So I'm a computer guy.
You're the computer. You're our computer.
I am the computer. Yeah,
you're the computer on this podcast. But yes, today I've been on hiatus from watching any of The Bear because I hit episode 5 maybe like a week and a half ago,
and you stopped.
And I stopped.
I'm so glad you stopped. Yeah. Thank you for stopping.
Yeah.
And waiting.
I wanted to be fresh for our second half episode, and then I also didn't want the second half to like taint.
When it gets too confusing, it's too hard to cut off in your brain.
Yes.
All right, that was the end of episode 5. Never reference anything after it.
But so in case I needed to refresh my memory or be able to search something real quick about what happened in an episode, or pull up Carmy's non-negotiables so that I could do a bit leading off the podcast.
Great call.
That's why I'm also the computer today.
We have 2. Double the fun. So yes, fresh off of finishing our coverage of House of the Dragon season 2. Season 2. That was season 2.
Season 2.
Barrett and I are now moving on to covering The Bear season 3, but we are doing it a little differently than we did House of the Dragon because obviously season 3 of The Bear dropped over a month ago now. Unfortunately for Hulu and The Bear, they did it right in the middle of House of the Dragon. Therefore,
and what are they doing, by the way? What are they doing? Name a reason why this should have been binge dropped like this.
I can't. I've been trying to figure this out for years. I just can't.
There's nothing going on right now except for the Olympics. There's this big void until Penguin comes out, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how. I could not begin to tell you what the interest level in Penguin is.
I think it's pretty high.
Okay, I hope so. Apparently, I have to watch a 3-hour Batman movie to get prepped for it.
You haven't seen the Robert Pattinson Batman yet?
I've not.
I'm betting you don't actually need to have seen it.
No, apparently it sets up Penguin.
Yeah, but I'm still betting you don't really need to have seen it.
Well, I'm gonna watch it, because
you should.
We have these new non-negotiables and details matter, Ross.
That's very true.
Right. So,
those are going to apply to the Penguin too.
Of course.
Those are forever.
Those are forever.
Not just for the Bear coverage. Okay, just being clear here.
But look, if they had not done that and dropped this in a normal way, even if they had done first 3 episodes and then week by week, we would have ended House of the Dragon and we would have picked up with the last basically 3, 4, 5 episodes of The Bear, and the conversation would have been extended for another month for them, where they basically have the spotlight.
Yeah.
The Olympics end tomorrow.
Well,
You know what I
the
mean?
other
Like,
thing that's coming out that just occurred to me is Rings of Power season 2.
Nobody cares.
Well, you don't care. Some people care. Very few people care, but I care. And then, yeah, I mean, yes, this is the issue with look, we got a hotline call about this that we're going to be discussing on our coinciding Patreon episode with regard to like the fact that no one except us is talking about this season of TV anymore.
Right. Yeah, we're doing them a favor, honestly, by delaying our coverage like this.
A huge favor.
You know?
Bringing some level of spark back to
extending the squeeze.
The Bear in the zeitgeist.
That's right. That's right.
So, to me, it's a mistake. I've voiced this opinion over and over and over. The Bear is prestige TV enough, even though it fits into the comedy category at the award shows for some ungodly reason.
Somehow, yeah.
It's prestige TV enough to do weekly drops, and I think it eats its own tail by going with the binge drop strategy. Especially, I've only watched 5 episodes, but like especially with a season like this one, where it's not just nonstop plot movement.
Right.
It's a lot of artsy shit and deep humanity exploration, and it's just it's tough when you drop that all at once. And yeah, this whole thing that the streaming era brought upon us, where there's this argument between the binge drop and the weekly episodic releases, I thought it would have been solved by now, like that we'd basically have one strategy for all of the best shows on TV to utilize, and that's still not the case. We're still in this weird in-between space where I honestly, to be honest, you said they could have dropped the first 3 episodes, like, I hate that even more. I hate it. I fucking hate it. That like with some shows, I'm like, ooh, this show's back. And then I see, oh, well, the first 2 episodes are out already, or the first 3 episodes. It's like, and then it goes to week by week. That just confuses me even more. Like, what are we doing? What, somebody, for the love of God, lay down the law. I mean, surely the cast speaks out about this.
I mean, it's probably they probably don't want to ruffle any feathers by coming out and just saying like, boy, I sure wish we were a week to week drop.
Cowards,
Yeah. Maybe it's because all of the stars of the Bear have like 12 other things going on at any given time at this point, and so they're okay with kind of like ripping through this. But it's not that I think that nothing should be binge model. I do think that there's some stuff that where it makes a little bit more sense. But when you have a show that typically has the zeitgeist in a chokehold, it makes more sense to milk that a little bit and to let the conversation happen over 10 weeks instead of 1, basically.
In this case, like, maybe 1 or 2, yeah.
Yeah, people burned hot, and especially, and then you really, you shoot yourself in the foot even more when you get a season like this one, which people were much softer on than they have been for the first 2. And so it's like everybody just kind of like, poo-poos it all over the internet, and then it's like, so the word of mouth kind of gets killed.
The hype is dead.
The hype is dead a little bit. And then it's just like you get bowled over by something like House of the Dragon and the Olympics, and it's like, I haven't heard somebody mention this show in weeks now.
And then it's over.
Yeah.
So we really, what we're saying is that we are heroes.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say it, but
we're the only people keeping this thing alive. The Bear would probably be canceled if not for us. That's where we're at. It's up to us. And so that's the service we'll do for all of you today. Yeah. This week we're covering episodes 1 through 5 of The Bear season 3, the first half. Next week we are covering episodes 6 through 10 of The Bear season 3, and then we'll have coinciding Patreon episodes for both. So let's just do this. Let's get into this thing, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
The Bear Season 3, Episode 1 is titled Tomorrow, and the description is the next day and the days that led to it. So I took that to mean this is literally the day after Carmi gets locked in the freezer, fridge situation, has the full-blown meltdown, has all this conflict with Cousin Richie, kind of accidentally breaks up with Claire through a door, and this is literally the next day. So I joked about this on our final episode of House of the Dragon coverage, but the episode 1 was basically like a not so subtle reminder that this show considers itself to be art, that this is it's not just narrative TV. It's high level shit here.
Yeah.
Fancy schmancy.
So I think I probably have the most to say about episode 1.
That's kind of shocking.
When you popped this episode on, how long into the 37 minutes did it take for you to be like, oh, they're doing a thing. They're doing a thing.
Probably 15.
Okay.
But
because I think it probably took me like 20, 21, 22 minutes. And I honest to God, I need to go. I have not rewatched this episode. I need to, because it's a rocky start. It's a kind of rough landing to come into a season where the first 2 have been incredibly propulsive and fast and moving, and to expect it to pick up right where we left off, and then to get like a 37-minute meditation on everything that's happened and
how we got here,
with essentially no words. Right. So it's just like it took me so long to realize that they were doing a thing, that they were doing this like high art dream state, recap plus here's what's coming plus here's how we got here thing, that like by the end of it I was like, okay, that was 37 minutes of nothing that I didn't already know, but I guess it was kind of cool. Like I need to sit down and rewatch that episode with the full knowledge of like they're doing an art piece here.
Right.
But I've not done that. So to start off the season, it was a little like it was a little weird.
It was very strange.
I kind of think that obviously because of what they wanted to say with that episode, because it was kind of this preamble, it needed to be number 1. I like an episode like that more when it's kind of like mid-season, when they just like drop that in as like episode 3,
almost
or 6,
like a little breather.
Where it's like a little break. Yeah. More bottle episode style.
Right.
But
to kick off a season, it was something.
Yeah. And it was cool. It was obviously very, very well done. But at the same time, what I left that episode with was I knew all of that. They did not tell me anything I didn't know. The only thing that was that they kind of like drop in there for you is the whole like Carmi is at the Joel McHale restaurant where he's getting absolutely abused. He learns that his brother died, perfects the scallop meal all in the same like fell swoop, and that's the dish that Sydney gets that like inspires her to basically like, I have to work for this guy.
Yeah.
So that was like the, like the payoff that you almost miss if you're not paying attention. But that was a nice, a nice piece that they give you there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, this, you said it already, but this is very you almost have to rewatch it.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things that probably when you're done with the season on the whole, it would be great to go back and rewatch, because just to be honest, in my viewing experience, I was using The Bear season 3 as sort of my like enjoyment TV, because we were in the midst of covering House of the Dragon, and when we're doing full-blown episodic coverage, it as a fan, it sort of lessens my experience, because it's like, it's work for me. I really have to focus, and I'm having to take a ton of notes and like rewatch the episodes and remember everything for the podcast. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with that, much like there's a lot of pressure that comes with running a restaurant. It's pretty much the same thing. I'm a chef. So yeah, I took an edible and then popped this thing on.
Okay. All right.
And like I said, like 15, 20 minutes in, I was like, wait, what? How much time has passed? And when you're high and you kind of lose track of like, has it been 30 minutes or has it been 5? Like that's where I was at. I was like, surely it's about to start the like narrative storytelling part of the episode. And it just never comes. It's literally a montage.
It's a montage
with one piano song instrumental playing in the background the entire time.
Yeah.
And once you get on board with what's happening, it is pretty beautiful. Like it's just tough to come in with the mindset of like, all right, we're back. The Bear, the restaurant's open, and we're gonna be back in the drama with all the yelling and the screaming, and then they're just like, it's just this fucking art piece. So it's tough if you're not on board. Like once you get on board, I found it much easier to appreciate. And this is the one that out of the 5 that I did rewatch, because I was like, I need to. That was not the state of mind for me to be in to be able to talk about this episode. So in rewatching it, I made some notes about what happens. And it kind of goes back and forth between like current Carmy in his new restaurant, The Bear, to his past experiences training to be a chef and sort of some random relationship development and then some trauma like spliced in as well. So we see Carmy saying bye to his sister Sugar before flying to New York for chef training or whatever you want to call it.
Chef practice.
Chef practice,
I think is the technical term.
Yeah. There are a lot of, and this is kind of one of this show's trademarks at this point, close-ups of plates and table dressing like flowers and shit and food being prepared, a ton of people drizzling things on various dishes.
Oh, yeah.
They love to show a good drizzle.
So can we take an aside here?
Yeah.
Just like spin off on a bit of a tangent.
Why not?
You've been to some high-end restaurants in Austin, such as like Sushi Bar or Sushi by Scratch or whatever.
Yeah.
And probably a few others. But so I think, and same for me. So we've got a little bit of experience with like some of this high-end like plating.
Right.
Where it's like a very small thing with like a bunch, like 7 different accoutrements.
Yeah.
You know, it's a special oil drizzle and a tiny little thing of parsley or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
where you literally feel bad eating the food because it looks so pretty.
But and then okay, so keep that in mind. Second thing is that the Michelin people,
The star people that rate the restaurants,
also the tire people, have just recently announced that they are coming to Texas for the first time ever. They're going to be in Texas. They're at presumably there will be some Texas Michelin stars handed out next year.
Oh, see, I didn't even realize they'd never been. Is that typically?
That's why Texas doesn't have any Michelin starred restaurants, is because we have never. There's a little bit of pay to play. I guess Texas finally did. I don't know who pays. I don't know who's like, yeah, come on down. But Texas has basically never been game for it.
Okay, it's like the board of restaurateurs or something
like that. Yeah.
Restaurateurs.
So we've got tons of James Beard Award winners, but no Michelin stars because they've never come to Texas. Whatever, a deal was reached, they paid to play or whatever. Michelin stars are coming to Texas.
The Michelin Man is coming down.
The Michelin Man is coming down on his big tires. And the murmurs that I've heard so far are that what is most likely to get a Michelin star for the first year in Texas is a barbecue restaurant, is something like Franklin or something like that.
Okay. Typecast us, why don't you?
A little bit, yeah. Okay, so now I'm leaving for Spain at the end of this week. By the time you're hearing this, and Spain does have some Michelin stars. So
wait, whoa. Spain has Michelin stars and Texas doesn't?
Oh, yes.
Where's the Michelin Man from? Is that not
France?
Oh, okay.
I think.
Francais.
Michelin?
Across the pond, though.
That can't be right. That's not right, yo. That's not right. I'm sorry. Michelin is US based, but they because famously, I remember learning this about a year or two ago. The whole idea, the reason that Michelin tires had this guide, this Michelin guide, is because the concept of what got a Michelin star was basically like, it's worth you burning your precious, super expensive tires in the 1930s or whatever to go to this restaurant.
Okay.
You should drive to this restaurant.
Right. It's that good.
On your tires, which at that day, in that day and age, was like very significant to be driving in your car burning up your tires.
Okay, pause. I thought you were joking. Making the obvious joke that the Michelin restaurant rating system is also the tire manufacturer.
Same. It's one and the same.
In fact, the Michelin Group is a French multinational tire manufacturer and
okay, so it is French
travel guide publisher. And it's headquartered in Clermont-Ferrand, France.
Okay.
So you weren't wrong.
So I wasn't wrong.
It was founded in 1889. So yeah, it's been around forever. And Michelin owns like BF Goodrich, Kleber, a bunch of other tires as well. Anyway, I thought you were kidding. Those things are in fact actually connected, and this is the reasoning.
Yeah.
So like the original sort of premise for it was like, if you have Michelin stars, these are restaurants that are worthy of people burning tires, burning rubber.
Yeah, because this
is to come and see.
Yeah, as the tire company grew, so did their guide, and by the 1920s, they began charging for the booklet. In 1926, the guide changed to focus on what is now best known for fine dining, with a team of mystery diners known as inspectors visiting and reviewing restaurants in France.
How do you get that job? That's a tight job.
Yeah. And so I'm paraphrasing about what it was, but yeah. So we're talking 100 years ago and more. And so yes, the idea of using your car and your tires to get somewhere was not that like that was a big deal to drive maybe a couple hours to go to a different restaurant basically. Right. Okay. All that to say, I started looking at the spots that were Michelin starred in Barcelona and Mallorca, where we'll be. And like, it is all that fucking like tweezer food, basically. It's all like how much can you make food not look like food? It's these little dollops and squares and one thing on a plate and then like a weird drizzle and then like something that doesn't look edible like on top of it. Like it's all this like
art food,
basically. And I know that that's not the only place. That those are not the only places that Michelin rewards. But it does seem like that kind of traditional. The best thing I know to call it is tweezer food because they are always doing a little tiny little details.
Cracks me up every time we get a scene of that.
Yeah, that's still kind of traditionally like how you get a Michelin star. That 7-minute aside is all to say, like most of these restaurants that we see Carmy working in are that style of food.
Yeah,
you know, it's a lot.
The highest level of fine dining where it's almost like the art of it. And the beauty of it is just as important as how good it tastes. Right. And you have to have both. And that sort of coincides with what I felt like the statement this opening episode for season 3 was trying to make. Which is like, we're going to give you a good story. We've got good characters. But we're going to make this shit art.
Yeah. And I think where I was going with that is that dish that he's trying to perfect, the scallop. You just keep saying to yourself, like, that looks so good. It looks perfect. It looks perfect. And
what's wrong with that?
Joel McHale dickhead is like, less. And all of that translates to all of these non-negotiables into the way that Carmy is trying to run the bear, which is like pulling back, stripping these things down to just like their bare, most beautiful elements, basically.
Yeah. Taking out anything that's not necessary to the dish. Yeah.
Lot of big time restaurant cameos in this episode. That's another thing that the Bear is now like known for. Is it's both its celebrity and its restaurant cameos. But like this purports, this first episode, that Carmy has worked in a New York City restaurant called Daniel, which is by this French guy named Daniel Boulud. There are scenes at Noma, which is which is largely considered the best restaurant in the world in Copenhagen.
Which one is the one where they make all their own ingredients? They grow them all there.
That's the French Laundry.
Okay.
Where he's out in the gardens and stuff like that. That one's in there. Ever, which is the restaurant that Richie stages for in the famous Forks episode from last season.
Right.
Which is a real restaurant. Olivia Colman is not the head chef there.
Unfortunate.
And also it did not close.
Bummer.
So,
well, that part's good.
But Ever is where he's working with the guy that got hot.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember his name, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear, Carmy and Richie both worked at Ever, right? Because my impression was that Carmy had this relationship with Olivia Colman's character.
He does. And that's how he's able to get Richie over there.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they give us shots in this episode of Carmy. He was living in the boat.
That's right.
That Marcus ends up living in season 2 when he's over there.
That's Noma. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And there's I didn't even realize this the first time that I watched this episode. I think I had to see this online, but like Mulaney is back in this episode. He's like the roommate in New York.
Yeah. The only scenes, no lines. The only scenes they show him is when Carmy's like passed out,
right,
fully clothed after a hard day of chef practice, and Mulaney like puts a blanket on top of him. That happens like 3 or 4 times. Yeah.
But I bring those up because I want to come back to celebrity cameos for the last episode that we'll
have to.
Yeah.
But we do see Joel McHale hazing Carmy again here pretty ruthlessly.
Yeah.
All of the things in this episode, what I really appreciated my second watch through is that they all serve a purpose. None of this is just random, right? You're getting basically how Carmy gets his professional, like,
worldview,
perfectionist ideals.
Yeah.
We see some flashbacks to other episodes from the 2 earlier seasons, like Fishes and the season 2 finale when Carmi melts down in the freezer, just like literal flashbacks, like just a second of like, his mom screaming, or like the part where Mikey throws the fork at fucking Bob Odenkirk or whatever.
They do a little bit of retconning, I think, in the flashbacks there, with making sure they show you that the handle on the inside of the fridge was like broken off.
Yes. Yeah. Gone.
Yeah, because and you can see like it is supposed to be there.
Because we were all asking. Like,
people complained about that or brought that up. I shouldn't say complain necessarily, but they were like, all fridges like that have an inside handle.
Fucking handle on the inside in case this happens, so people don't just freeze to death in there. We see Carmi and Claire talking. They do a lot of work in the first couple episodes here to show us like how their relationship developed, I guess.
Yep.
Carmi starts writing his non-negotiable list based on all his experiences, although when you're watching this first episode, you don't really realize what it is you're seeing yet. We see Carmi getting the news that Mikey died. I believe what we are seeing is Cousin found his body, because it's like Cousin Richie knocking on a door, being like, Mikey, let's go. And nobody answers, and then Carmi gets the phone call. So, yeah. And then we see Carmi watching everyone leave Mikey's funeral from his car because Carmi never went in. So he did not participate in the funeral. And the episode ends with Sydney going, basically ends with Sydney going solo to the restaurant Carmi works in, and she tries that dish, which, would you say it is the scallop?
I think it's a scallop, right? I think so.
It's like the thing that makes her want to be a chef, I believe. Like, it sets her on this path. So, yeah, very artsy episode, really not what you expect. So I think they were pretty intentionally subverting the audience's expectations and kind of making you sit back and put yourself in a different state of mind for The Bear season 3 was their intention.
Yeah.
So moving on to episode 2, if you're ready.
I'm ready.
It's titled Next, and the description is Carmi sets a new standard. It's hard not to consider this to be the first episode of season 3 after the montage season premiere. Yeah. Sydney's getting cramped, living with her dad. This is kind of one of the storylines that plays out over the course of the season, right? But they show him fighting over bathroom time because her dad went to Ricky's after work and he ate too many wings and he's got to blow that thing up. But she's in there trying to get ready, and it was just, that's a lesson to be learned. Don't eat too many wings at Ricky's.
You know what? It's just a nice. I don't know. I felt very privileged to have never had to share a bathroom. Not necessarily with a sibling. I feel like that's pretty standard. But like having to share one with your parent or parents, that'd be pretty tough. That'd be pretty hard.
It sucks with a sibling too. It's not ideal. There's a lot of this kind of. And you never had to do this in college with roommates with like a dorm?
No, I guess I did.
That also sucks.
Yeah.
Because everybody has different bathroom standards and like standards for cleanliness in bathrooms.
Yeah.
We don't all agree.
It's true.
Turns out. They give us like an opening credits with there's like a song in the background. I can't remember which one.
Oh yeah. That was a cool, the opening little credit shot. They keep showing they're so good at this. Speaking of the art of the show.
Yeah.
I love all of the Chicago scenery and montages, and they pick great music. They've got great music taste.
Fantastic music.
It's like all stuff that I don't actually listen to. It's bands. It's
but you're like, I should listen to this. I should add this to my fucking Spotify.
Yeah, there's some REM in this season. Yeah. There's some, there's just some cool shit that works so well for the show. But they very clearly know Chicago and love Chicago, and that's typically on this podcast. I always talk about how I love shows where like New York City is kind of like one of the characters.
Yeah.
But I get the same high from this show, and that Chicago is like is such a big piece of this show.
See, this is probably the first show I've ever gotten that kind of feeling from, because don't get me wrong, like Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, I get that for New York, but I'm not a huge New York fan. Right. I'm a huge Chicago fan. Like I've said it repeatedly, this is my favorite city in the US that I've ever visited.
Yeah. Great city.
And so yes, this opening credits homage to Chicago and Chicagoans and the service industry and different restaurants and like coffee shops and bakeries and donuts being made. You see all this different stuff, like sausage factory workers and then firemen. Like they're just giving you like, this is Chicago. And all these people are breaking the fourth wall and waving to the camera and shit, which was really an interesting part of it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, when that started happening, this Chicago homage, I was like, oh, fuck, is this going to be the rest of the episode? Are we doing it? We're just going to do what we did in the first episode, but now for Chicago? Anyway, that's not what ends up happening.
I would have been okay with that.
Yeah, it was fun. I was just like, I was a little fearful for a moment. So we find out Carmi is trying to quit smoking, so now he's eating nicotine gum. And that kind of carries on through the rest of these first 5 episodes. Uncle Jimmy's collection guy comes. That's who I think it was anyway. And he tells Carmi that the regulars are talking shit. This is one of the things that has come up about the bear, that people would be irate in the real world if their favorite fucking sandwich shop turned into a fine dining restaurant overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy's communicating that he hears regulars saying, yo, fuck this fancy fuck. I want my shit. And so Carmi commits to opening the beef window to sell sandwiches out of it.
Right.
He's like,
which has been part of the plan, but they've not got it up and running.
Hadn't done it yet. Yeah. Carmi still has not called Richie or talked to Claire since the season 2 finale fridge incident. People keep bringing it up to him. Have you talked to Richie? Have you called Claire? He's like, no. Sugar is very pregnant and anxious about her pregnancy, which is another storyline that develops over the course of the season. Uncle Jimmy comes by and bitches about all the fancy new equipment Carmi has been buying. For a refresher, Uncle Jimmy is the weird mobbed up uncle situation that he's financing this entire operation, right? The restaurant is not making any money, which will be another theme.
Yes.
We find out Carmi wants to change the menu every single day.
Yeah.
Which was a big drop, right? So Sydney is like, what the hell, man? Are you serious?
He a wild boy for that one.
Everyone is like, what the hell, man? Are you serious? This is an insane idea, right? But this is one of those things that if you want to get a Michelin star, if you want to be considered one of the top restaurants in the world, you have to be constantly innovating, right?
Yeah.
And that's the concept here. So Carmi also tells Sydney he has sent her a partnership agreement in the form of a DocuSign. It has a vesting schedule. She is being brought into the fold as a partner. He's really doing it with her. Sydney does not seem stoked about that, though. Mostly stressed. Like she's not quite sure if she wants to dive in with both feet or whatever, however you want to put it.
And I read just a little bit of like, hey, sign this thing, kind of wanting to do a little bit more due diligence about what exactly all of this that means. You know what
Sugar
I mean?
tells her the computer wrote the contract, and when this scene is unfolding the first time, I was like, oh, so they used like Chat GPT to write the contract. But no. The guy they call the computer is the guy who wrote the contract. So Sugar tells her, like, have your own lawyers look this over because God knows what the computer put in there.
Yeah.
Richie shows up to the bear. This is him and Carmi's first interaction since the conflict of season 2. And they immediately pick up right where they left off. They're arguing about tables and decor and shit. And the part about it that's so awkward is they just do it in front of everyone. Fuck you. No, fuck you. Fuck you. That goes on for like 10 minutes.
What I remember about episode 2, like if I had to, I watched it 2 weeks ago or whatever. If I had to tell you what happened in episode 2, I would tell you that everybody gets the non-negotiables list and then stands around the kitchen prepping for restaurant opening and screams "fuck you" at each other.
It's really stressful.
It's very stressful, and I'll be honest. After this episode, I was very worried about this season. I sometimes when and this happens with shows, right? It's the point of what's the right way to put this? Oh, it's the point of like self-awareness. Once a show knows it's a show, do you know what I mean?
It knows the things people expect from it and like its own stereotypes.
Right. Like once a show gets so popular or zeitgeisty or whatever, however else you want to kind of frame that it's self-aware basically about what the show is popular for, that type of thing. You can sometimes kind of like bump into this issue where where if you do some of those things, you almost feel like you're parodying yourself,
like the fuck you thing.
And so this almost read to me like and I just had this feeling. I'm like, okay, they're doing this because it's what they feel like they're expected to. And I know that that's not really true. Like I know that this is just supposed to be continuing the idea that this is what the relationship between Richie and Carmi is like. It's volatile, it's loud, it's a bunch of fuck yous. But it didn't hit for me on this episode. Like I wanted to just like get into my shell a little bit. And I know it's supposed to make you uncomfortable as well. But usually I'm like at least like a little giddy about it. I'm like at least a little like, oh my God, this is so electric. Like these people are fucking insane. And here I was just like,
oh God,
okay,
here we go again.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that was the way everyone felt watching this scene. Because it was the same for me. I was like,
I get it. I've watched these dudes yell at each other 19 times now or whatever.
I think what this did serve to do a good job of was putting you in Sydney's shoes.
Yeah.
Where she is just like looking at these two grown men yelling "fuck you" at each other over and over, and she's just like, "Shut the fuck up!"
And like, this is what you want me to sign up for? Like, this is what I'm supposed to sign a contract.
You want me to commit to being a part of this toxicity? Like, I am not okay with this. And Fack gets really uncomfortable too. He comes in, he's like, "Guys, this seems really bad. Like, can you please stop? You're taking it too far." Because there's a difference between that like playful fuck you. And where this gets to, which is they're literally about to fight each other in the kitchen. It's like, it's not conducive to a healthy working relationship. And I think what Richie tells Carm is like, look, I'm going to leave our shit outside of this shit. He says, I'm going to be a G about it. And I'm going to leave our personal beef outside of the bear.
Yeah.
Right. Like I said, Richie and Fack are rightfully concerned about having to memorize a new menu every day. Everyone wants Carmi to fix things with Claire, it seems. Marcus shows back up for the first time since losing his mom. It's his mom, right? Okay. Carmi, there's a good scene where Carmi goes to Marcus and tells him, like basically offers his support if it's needed, saying, like, I know what it's like to lose somebody you're really close to. It can be rough.
Yep.
And part of Carmi's character, and certainly Richie too, is like, these are two men who were never taught how to healthily communicate or like share their emotions. Everything is very bottled up. Richie has done a great job of sort of learning that, you know, how he uses a lot of like therapy speak and like philosophical talk. Carmi, not so much. So to see Carmi reaching out to Marcus and telling him like, yo, if you need somebody to talk to, you can talk to me, was kind of a cool character development scene for both of them. And Marcus's response to him is like, this place has to work. Like, I am beaten down and broken right now with the loss of my mom. And like, I have to have this. This has to work.
Yeah.
And that's how the episode ends.
Is this the episode that we get the flashback to Bear and what's the girlfriend's name?
Claire.
Claire, thank you. To Bear and Claire having their little like their late night / early morning chat.
I believe that is coming up.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on to episode 3, which is titled Doors. The description is the staff slogs through a month of service. So this is a month we cover in episode 3, like the first month of being open. But it starts with Marcus's grandmother's funeral. The staff of the Bear goes to support him. Marcus speaks at the service. Carmi actually arrives and goes. He doesn't avoid it. He's actually there. But it's just people yelling doors at each other and hands and doors and hands and doors. We get a look. This is a look at how the Bear operates. That's like the internal machinations of how this restaurant operates, right? A lot of people telling other people to fire and refire things, fire multiples, refiring. Refiring is like when you've messed up a dish, I think, and you have to like redo it, basically.
I can confirm, based on my summer of working at Papacitos, that a refire is when somebody sends something back because it's wrong. And you have it basically like that jumps to the top of the pile, basically. Like if something needs to be refired.
The most important.
Yeah.
Uncle Jimmy is still concerned about the restaurant making money, comes through and repeatedly expresses that thought. Richie tries to present his own non-negotiables in response to Carmi's non-negotiables, which causes more conflict between them. There's lots of people breaking plates and glasses. They're showing you like it's not always hunky-dory and clean. In a restaurant, as meticulous as all of these people are, accidents do happen. Plates do get dropped. Glasses do get shattered. And you have to deal with all of that, right? The chaos of it all.
Yep.
As if we weren't familiar enough with the chaos of this place and these people. Sydney works with Tina to help Tina become a better chef. Tina's still like on the come up, right? She's still figuring it all out. Doors, hands. Fack takes a broth out to 2 customers, pours it for them, and then does not serve it.
Right. Yeah.
And that causes some issues. The beef window gets opened, and Ibrahim is in charge of it. It's chaos.
Absolute chaos.
Clearly, way too many sandwiches being ordered through this fucking window for one guy to handle while the rest of this full-blown restaurant is being done. And it's a totally different customer base. Like, it's all like the regular fucking people the riffraff of Chicago ordering these sandwiches, and then this fancy schmancy fine dining audience in the actual inside of the restaurant, which is a cool contradiction, right?
Yeah.
Sugar is working on the math to create like a path to the bear making money. She's our like accounting lady, right? She's doing the books.
She's ops. She's business. She's
cracking the books every day.
She's cracking the books.
And the information we get out of this little scene with Sugar is that they're packing the place every night, but costs are too high. And they're bringing up how like Carmy keeps having like, all these very specific ingredients. And
they're wasting food because of the menu. Because of the menu
and changing the menu every day is causing a ton of issues with the money. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. They got to add a turn, or maybe even just a half turn. Either would really, really help this place out.
So
tell you what
does that mean? Because like my never worked in a restaurant before assumption was like, okay, a half turn is they need to fill half the restaurant up one more time, like adding that in.
Yeah.
So getting people up and out so that they can get more people in.
Yeah, and I think that the way that they're what it sounds like is that they have and this is a lot of fine dining establishments these days, but they have seatings. So they've got like a 6 and an 8. Right. So when you book a reservation, you're either sitting at 6 or you're sitting at 8. And then so they're doing like a full restaurant turn for the second seating, and they need to get at least like half of the people out by 9:30 so that they can do another half seating at 9:30.
So just about more asses and seats,
more butts and seats. Yeah, they gotta. And this is, I mean, you just to make it real world. Basically, over the course of the pandemic, you probably saw. Maybe this was happening a little bit before, but it definitely started happening during the pandemic when turns became more like forward facing. But like you'll book a restaurant these days and it'll be like, you've got 2 hours.
Yeah.
It says that on the thing. It's like all seatings, you have 2 hours, or sometimes it's less.
Dude, I remember calling, my wife and I were running late to a reservation. And so I called ahead to be like, hey, we're 10 minutes late, don't fucking cancel our shit. We're coming. We're on the way. And they were like, oh yeah, cool. Just know that when you seat, like you have like the maximum you can be here is an hour and a half. And I was like, oh. Yeah. Like that clock starts like when your reservation starts, not when you sit down. Yeah, so like you're eating into that when you're late.
Yeah.
Because they need you the fuck out so they can get somebody else in so they can sell more shit so they can try to make money.
Yeah, it's also why like you're generally, it's sort of frowned upon to be at a restaurant that doesn't do this type of thing and then just like linger after dinner if you're not continuing to order drinks or dessert or whatever.
Yeah, this is when your waiter starts coming by and being like, okay.
Anything else?
Right.
Can I get you anything else?
They just start clearing the table with you still at it, and you're like, well, they really want us the fuck out of here. They put the vibe out for you, like, you need to go. This almost kind of happened to us at Matt's El Rancho. Whenever that, what were we there for?
For Dave's birthday.
Dave's birthday, yeah. We had a big ass table, and we definitely lingered after the fact. Now, this is the kind of place where I think that's generally acceptable or more acceptable, but even so, by the end, I could tell they were like, get the fuck out.
Well, I mean, Matt's is a great example.
This is a huge table we could fill.
Yeah, and they're a great example, and this is a giant Tex-Mex restaurant. And like their whole business model is the fact that they can get you in and out, like not huge parties, but they can get a table of 4 in and out in like an hour.
Right.
Like the food is quick, the service is fast. They want to get you in, sit you down, get you fed, and get you out so that they can
because there's a huge wait
turn that table
constantly. Yeah.
At a fine dining establishment where you're paying $11,000 for Orwellian butter, you got to make those turns count.
Yeah. It's too much for butter.
It's too much for butter.
That's
the computer's not going to like that.
No, he's not. No, he's not. We watched them clean the restaurant after it closes. This is probably my favorite scene. I'm a bit of a neat freak psycho, and now with 2 young children and 4 dogs in my house, like it's never clean around me.
Yeah.
And so what I'll do at night, like after when there's no one else downstairs with me, is I just go fucking nuts down there. I just like deep clean this shit, and it's totally idiotic because literally by the time I get out of bed the next day, it's destroyed again. And I'm like, how? Y'all have been awake for 15 minutes. What the fuck? But I love this this is the way I would clean my shit if I didn't have 2 kids and 4 dogs. I'm talking about hands and knees, spotless shit. Like
Yeah.
makes your kitchen brand new.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing here, right? Like you see him, the way he soaps down everything and like every inch of tile,
And you
every countertop.
This is something you see him learning in episode 1, right?
Yeah.
He's doing this at some of these other fine dining establishments. He is obviously taking it to this next level. And I'm regurgitating a take here that's not really my own, but this is like all this, the non-negotiables, the menu, everything is like about him trying to exert control
Yeah.
on a chaotic business, right? And like that's what the cleaning is. It's like this is what he can.
This is the only thing.
Force.
It's exactly what I'm doing in my home.
Yeah.
I can't control all this chaos, but I need to feel like I can a little bit, and this is the way I feel that control. Yeah.
It's cool. It's crazy. You know what this? Did you watch the Beckham documentary?
Yeah, most of it.
He's kind of like this about his kitchen.
Bit of a neat freak.
Yeah, and he's like,
he goes
I don't-
down
he's
and
like, I
cleans
don't-
it after everyone's
Yes.
asleep.
And he's like, I don't have staff for this. Like, I'm down here cleaning up this kitchen, making it spotless again.
Yeah, and it's 100% like a level of OCD and a level of there's like a mental health tie-in. Because they give you that with Beckham too. They're showing you like this dude's got some fucking demons.
Yep.
And this is one of the ways he deals with it.
Yeah.
He's down there like scrubbing the inside of the fucking
The grates and
dude, really going at it. And that's the same kind of thing with Carmi, and like that's definitely a type of person, right? And I fall into that bucket, unfortunately. but yeah, no, I loved the cleaning scene here. It was satisfying. It was like ASMR level satisfying for me. So yeah, by the end of the first month, the impression we're given is like Carmi is on the verge of a nervous breakdown. He's barely holding it together. The dude is just internally a mess, and so is Sydney. Like she's very, very stressed out. You can tell there's going to be a breaking point coming eventually. I don't really know when it is. I don't think we really hit it in these first 5 episodes, but the way they are operating currently is pretty miserable. They're not profiting. They're not making money. Sydney still hasn't signed her agreement.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much tension. The air has not been cleared between Carmi and Richie or Carmi and Claire. You got Uncle Jimmy coming in yelling about fucking money and stuff. It's extremely stressful. And I've watched a lot of television. Perhaps no character in the history of TV could benefit more from therapy than Carmi. Like you're just watching this dude like suffer immensely under the weight of his own responsibility and that idea that he's trying to control the chaos. And like there's a moment, and I think it's in this episode, where the dude who's running the beef window, what is it? Ibrahim. He drops a bunch of bread.
Mm-hmm.
And Carmi comes over and like gets down on his knees and is helping him put the bread back in the basket. And Carmi asks, "Am I fucking this all up?" And Ibra's like, "Dude, what? I dropped the bread basket. This was my bad, my mistake." But he's looking for some level of reassurance. It's not about the bread basket. It's about like, does this place suck? Is this like a miserable? Does everyone here want to die? Right?
You got to put the bread in the basket because it's a bread basket.
That's why. That's what it's.
The bread basket.
Exactly.
Basket has the bread. You got to put the bread in the basket.
Don't need the computer to tell you that. Moving on to episode 4, which is titled Violet. The description is Sydney gets a new apartment. Marcus finds inspiration. This one starts out with a flashback to Claire and Carmi.
Okay, this
like
is
kind of falling in love.
Yeah,
kissing on each other, checking in on each other, and then Claire tells Carmi this horrifying story about this girl falling through a table at a party and like cutting herself really badly on all the broken glass, and then Claire gets her chart wrong and gives her medication that she's actually allergic to, so she goes into like epileptic shock or whatever, has to get a fucking EpiPen stuck in her, and then when the girl who fell through the table finally wakes up, she just starts laughing. Because it didn't hurt yet. Which that whole story, I was just like, God, please stop talking. do we have to do this? Must you make this show as stressful as possible every fucking episode for a different reason? But yeah, see, being a chef isn't the only stressful job in the world, Barrett. Doctors and nurses have it bad too.
They also have it bad.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on the whole Claire and Carmi thing, though?
I was into it. I liked it. I
giving some more depth.
Giving some more depth to their relationship. I thought was good. And yeah, man, Carmi is just he's a sad guy. You know, he's
dark dude.
He's a brooder.
Very yes. About as broody as you can be.
But I guess it's nice that he was feeling comfortable in that atmosphere of shared trauma.
Yeah. doing some trauma bonding with his girlfriend, who also has seen some shit.
Yeah.
They've both seen some shit. Speaking of seeing some shit, Marcus sees a violet growing on a fence and decides he's going to make a dessert inspired by it. Sydney goes and sees an apartment with her dad, who clearly doesn't want her to move out, which is unfortunate because she, as Sydney reveals, has already signed the lease. Kind of springs that on him there at the end after trying to get him to, approve of it himself.
That was a rhetorical question.
Yeah. We see Richie spending some time with his daughter, being a decent dad. These scenes with Richie are always nice because you're like, it's easy to think of him as like kind of a big dumb animal.
Yeah.
In the setting of the restaurant, but he's actually like got a good heart. Like when we see him singing Taylor Swift "Love Story," he's got a good heart. His daughter tells him that she thinks he's alone, which is a real devastating blow to Richie, who walks her over to her mom's house, his daughter, where we meet her mom's fiance, Josh Hartnett.
There he is.
It's the Josh Hartnett Renaissance.
One and only.
And it's been happening.
In his nice house with his beautiful sweater.
Yep. Yeah, and I was 100% certain they were queuing up like a douchebag stepdad character.
Right.
So it was a big relief for me and all the other stepdads when he's just a very nice, likable guy who's trying to apologize that he didn't let Richie know that he was going to propose to his ex.
And even Richie seems, to succumb to the charms a little bit.
Yes. He doesn't want to, but he kind of has no choice.
Yeah.
Josh Hartnett, starring in M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's latest movie. Trap. Right now.
Have you seen it?
Absolutely not. What? No.
It looks kind of sick.
Our producer, Kade, has seen it.
Okay.
He said it was not good. But Hartnett was in Oppenheimer recently.
He was, yeah.
So he's having like a little comeback moment here, dude.
Comeback season.
He's doing it.
For old Joshy boy.
Yeah. And he's the stepdad here in the cousin Richie divorce situation. Sugar's husband goes on a work trip for a week, seemingly like right before her due date. Which
wild, insane.
What the fuck is this?
Who's doing that?
Just for the record, you can't do this.
You don't do that. Don't do this.
Don't do this unless there's literally no other option. Like they're gonna fucking fire you,
right?
And even then, maybe just find another job because your wife is gonna hate you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and also, no matter how many times I've never even experienced this, but I just know that no matter how many times your wife says it's totally fine, she wants you to go. She does not. It's not what she means.
It's not. No, it's not fine. She's lying.
She's lying.
That's a lie. That's what that's called. She wants you to figure out that it's not okay for you to go on your own accord and not need her to tell you that it's not okay to go.
Yeah.
Which is a problem we have as men. We hear those words. No, it's fine. Go ahead. And we go, okay. See you later. Don't have the kid while I'm gone. Tina goes to the market. She's their market person. She's the one who goes and gets all the produce, right? She's hitting the market, getting the fresh fucking goods. But she's like disappointed by the selection.
Place is dying, man.
Yeah. Which, she asks like, hey, where's the stuff? And they're like, oh, we don't have all the stuff. And then in the 5th episode, she goes back and is like, oh, y'all have like no stuff. She comes back with like some fucking heads of lettuce and that's it.
Yeah.
But she learns at the market, whatever grows together goes together.
That's right.
Which is nice.
Very important.
The facts, 2 of them anyway, put photos of all the food critics in Carmi's office, which almost sends him into a panic attack. But they want to make sure if a food critic comes, they recognize them and like give them their A game. And like, this is part of the strategy, right? Thank God for the comic relief of the facts or this show might be too miserable for me to handle. Sydney runs into a food critic on the street who looked really familiar.
This is not a food critic. He's
a restaurant owner.
He's a chef at the aforementioned Ever.
Got it.
So he is the CDC, the chef de cuisine at Ever, where Carmi worked back in the day and Richie staged last season.
And he tells her he snuck in, basically. He got in unnoticed to the Bear a couple weeks ago and was served a meal. Okay, so I misread this a little bit. I thought that guy was also the reviewer.
No.
Which was confusing because he's like, you should come by the restaurant. He's inviting her to his place. And I was like, oh, so he's a food critic who also has his own restaurant. Because immediately after this, well, she asks this guy, she's like, so what did you like? I don't even want to ask how the food was. He's like, chef, it was excellent. But then when they're talking about the food critic later, I thought that was this guy. And I'm like, why isn't she telling them that the food critic said the fucking food was excellent? So they have no idea what's coming out with the review.
That's why everybody's freaking out.
Okay, Sydney doesn't know either.
And I think it was just a nice little setup for like, oh, they missed this guy.
Some missing stuff
that they knew. They know this guy. They know this chef, and they didn't even see him pop in.
Oh,
they probably
yeah.
It's somebody they would have liked to have clocked to make sure that this dude thinks highly of the restaurant. Right,
Gets the best. Send him out some free shit.
So yeah, the back of the house is so dysfunctional that they are missing things happening in the front of the house, like friends and family stopping by or a food critic being in.
Yeah, so that all coincides with the food critic thing. Okay. So Marcus works on his violet dessert. They just kind of showing him continuing to make progress with that, I guess. Carmi and Sydney argue about menu changes. Carmi hasn't had a cigarette in 41 days now. He's continuing to like unravel internally. And episode 4 ends with Carmi and the rest of the gang finding out the restaurant is being reviewed and kind of being like, oh shit, we slipped.
We missed him. Yeah. This was, I thought Doors was good. It's always nice to see like the kind of, I like when they go internal kind of behind the scenes of the restaurant itself. It was obviously another very like stressful episode and didn't do a whole lot plot wise. It was very much like, here's a month in the life of the restaurant. Episode 4 finally started moving a little bit, and it was my favorite episode of the first 4. And I especially like the moment that I really, really liked this, that I was like, okay, I feel a little bit back on the track, at least. Not that the first 3 episodes were bad. They were just different, and I didn't feel much momentum, really. This one with the missing the reviewer was really good. The moment with the Ever Chef was cool. But then especially, you mentioned Richie and his daughter having the moment, and then he meets Frank, the stepdad. But I loved his conversation with Sugar in the back of the house.
Toward the end, yeah.
Toward the end, when I think this is where he shows her like the Zen garden that he's got the picture of on the wall. And he's like looking at that, and he's trying to become the Zen master. He's getting into like this idea of enlightenment and the idea that you just, you're a rock in the garden and you die alone and all that. So it's very like existential and sad. And then he's basically like asking if he should even be a part of his daughter's life when she has this opportunity to be at this nicer house. He's like,
am I just making it weird?
Yeah.
Am I just making this strange?
But they have that moment of real humanity, of real connection, of real empathy that like has always kind of made this show tick a little bit. Is like,
I think that is the heart of the show.
Yeah,
the humanity of it all is what makes this show good.
And so this was, for me, this was the first, at least the best moment of the season through 4 episodes to get back to some of that like real like authenticity and real just like, people being people with people that they care about.
Yeah, and the twofold element of this thing where it's like how a restaurant and making a restaurant and how it would be to work at a restaurant and all the facets of being a restaurateur or being in the food service industry. You couple that with human struggle and relationships, and that's The Bear. Like, that's the show.
Yeah.
And yes, that was a very cool interaction between Richie and Sugar at the end where she tells him, like, dude, I think it would be weird if you didn't show up.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
that's what would be weird. And in episode 5, which is titled Children, still not sure why, the description is the computer gives the bear its odds. So my read is Uncle Jimmy runs a bookie.
Okay.
The computer is the dude who does the odds setting for him as a bookie, as a bookkeeper.
Okay. Damn, you're so deep into the mob game, Ross.
Just a degenerate gambler. So episode 5 opens with Sugar at church.
This is a good call. I like that. I think
that's right.
I have no idea if that's true or not.
I don't either.
And again, I'm not necessarily sure they're going to touch on it, but that makes a ton of sense.
I think that was my read because I'm watching this dude, the computer, talk, and I was like, this guy's this is a bookie. This is a sports betting situation.
So this guy, the computer, is played by Brian Koppelman, who is an American television and film writer, producer, and director. He is the co-writer of Ocean's 13 as well as Rounders.
Oh, wow.
So
the guy loves gambling.
The guy knows his way around gambling
a
little bit. So this tracks.
Yeah. Episode 5 opens with Sugar. She's at church praying. Again, very worried about her pregnancy situation, her husband being out of town on this work deal. Sydney helps Marcus clear out his mom's place. which is obviously like one of the things the show is dealing with grief, right? For several of the characters, how people handle grief, the stages after you've lost a loved one. This is one of the really weird stages. This is one of the really painful, strange things you have to do when somebody dies, is deal with their stuff, all the stuff that they had. And Marcus apologizes to Sydney for asking her out in season 2 and quote unquote making it weird between them, right? But Sydney handles it very well, is very cool about it, welcomes Marcus to the Dead Moms Club, which she is apparently the president of, and just more human bonding moments there between them. Everyone finds out that Andrea Terry, the woman, played by Olivia Colman, who was one of Carmi and
Chef
now
Terry.
Richie's mentors, Chef Terry, is closing her restaurant. And we see a lot of headlines about this given to us on the screen that are questioning like whether or not fine dining is dying. Seems to be one of the underlying things they want us putting into our heads. And obviously, the restaurant business, as is repeatedly stated, is very, very cutthroat. It's a very, very difficult business to have success in. Anyone in the restaurant business will tell you this. Like, restaurants have, very short shelf lives, basically. Like, they can be the hottest restaurant in town, and 5 years later, it's fucking gone.
Yeah.
Like, and that is not unusual at all.
And one of the things I've always heard, always, even pre-pandemic, is like how the margins are razor thin, and that's like we're seeing
That's
that
what we do a lot of
with
in this episode.
with the computer.
Yeah. Yeah. But everybody's bummed, especially Carmi and Richie, about Olivia Colman's Chef Terry's restaurant
sad
situation.
Stuff. And it's very much like it's like what, if they can die, I can die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they can die, I have no shot.
Yeah, because it seemed like shit was super buttoned up over there.
Right. And Richie he calls one of the people he worked with over there and he's trying to get a feel for why they're closing. And it sounds like they don't really know. Like, it's not like, we just financially crapped out.
Right.
It's more like she just didn't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Which I don't think that makes it any less scary for Carmi, right? Like, it may have not even been a financial decision. It's like she may have just been like, this fucking sucks, I'm done.
Yeah.
So Richie and the Facts prepare the restaurant for a photo shoot coinciding with the review.
Mm-hmm.
John Cena shows up. He's a fac. We knew there were at least 8 facts.
So this was my favorite episode through 5. And the computer is an awesome character. I love this is the type of like in restaurant moment where people are kind of, sniping each other and kind of like biting a little bit, but it didn't feel over the top with the fuck you, right?
Yeah, when it's just Carmi and Richie, it's harder to appreciate it. Yeah.
I loved what's the financier's name?
Oh, Uncle Jimmy?
Uncle Jimmy. Yeah. Loved him taking Carmi over for the little side chat, being like, don't fucking talk to me like that again.
Yeah.
He's like, but I thought you told me to be the man. He's like, that doesn't mean you have to be an asshole.
Yeah.
That's very,
Uncle Jimmy is a fantastic character that I was like, trying to get a read on him the first couple seasons for me was really difficult. I was like, wait, what?
But computer kind of talking them through all this dumbass kind of stuff that they're doing and why none of that works. You intercut that with the facts out there being insane. I just thought it was really, really good. Having said that, the John Cena cameo here was my least favorite, like pop in, hey, look, piece of stunt casting yet.
Well, he's too famous. He's too John Cena.
John Cena.
It's almost like if The Rock showed up and was like, I'm a fac. Be like, okay, you're The Rock.
So the Matty Matheson and the other guy like doing the Fact Brothers back and forth Abbott and Costello routine where there was that one moment where they're just not even saying anything and they're just like, you did that? No, I didn't do that. Oh, this that time? That was that time?
The back and forth.
The back and forth is so good. I didn't need the John Cena haunting thing happening.
Look,
also.
I can't disagree with you because it takes you out of it a bit when John Cena rolls in and you're like, John Cena, really? John Cena is a fact. I ended up liking what happened comedically. It just doesn't fit into this.
I got a laugh out of it. You know, like it's once they're 10 minutes into the bit, you kind of like have no choice. They've beaten you over the head with it.
You have to buy in.
You have to buy in. And them smoking in the restaurant, talking about the floor buffing, like all of that, like it's funny. It's funny. And like I said, it's my favorite episode of this season. you have to be careful with this stunt casting because it's like very clear now that like they basically can pull anybody to be on this show.
Right.
You know, call up who you want and say, you want to be on the Bear? And they're probably saying, book me a flight to Chicago.
Yeah, I think it's probably a situation where people are calling them and being like, I want to be on the Bear.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, shit, John Cena called. We have to fit him in somewhere. Oh, it'd be really funny to make him a fac.
But yeah, so it's just something I'm watching out for because it's something.
It's dangerous territory.
It's dangerous territory. Ask SNL, you know?
Yeah. And look, I get it. And I stand with you. I just also, by the end of the episode, was like, oh, fuck it. It's fine.
Right. No,
John Cena,
that's
fine,
where I landed too. That's where I landed too.
Yeah. Marcus continues working on his violet dessert he came up with. The last 20 minutes that Barrett's referencing with like the facts, preparing the restaurant for photographs, facts attack, and Uncle Jimmy showing up with the computer and breaking down the finances of the restaurant and laying out a path to cutting down expenses, and the photographer showing up and taking photographs. That was pure the Bear. That was this thing humming on all fucking cylinders.
Yeah,
it was impressive. The computer also asks Sugar if Marcus is a necessary employee, which frankly, I had asked myself that question. Every time they show him back there, he's like working on some fucking dessert that I'm like, does anyone ever order any of these? Does anybody, are we ever going to show?
Here's the thing. It's a tasting menu. Everybody gets the dessert.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody's getting everything that they're making.
They just haven't done a very...
That's actually, okay. They're actually not very good about this. Maybe they have the option for a tasting menu because indoors, when they keep having the tickets come in,
there's different stuff.
There's stuff ordered. You're right. But they've also referenced the tasting menu. So I don't know. That's actually a good question that I don't think they've been super clear about. But yeah, you got to have a high-end restaurant like this has to have a pastry chef. You got to wow with the dessert.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, you understand the computer's question. He's like, this is one guy who's not making us any money.
Yes,
is this necessary?
Yeah.
And Sugar's response is like, I will literally kill you.
Because we're a family.
Yeah.
The family.
This is about family. Yeah. It's just like Fast and the Furious with Dom. So Uncle Jimmy also gives Sydney shit for not having signed her partnership agreement yet. And Carmy finds a box of memories from their family, like a bunch of photographs, like in the office or something with, Jamie Lee Curtis and him when he was a baby. And that's the first 5 episodes of the season. I thought 3 through 5, 3, 4, 5 got me completely back in the flow of the show. And it made me further appreciate the first episode and what that one was doing. Episode 2 was probably my least favorite so far.
Yeah, same.
But I like what they're doing here. Now, I have my ears to the street. I'm obviously aware of all the complaining that has gone on about The Bear Season 3. And let me just say, at the halfway mark, if they continue at the pace they are currently at, I will ruthlessly rebut every single one of the people who has complained about this because this is fine. This is fine.
I think through 5, with 5 more to go, they certainly have an opportunity to land the plane in a really good spot. It's I can't remember if we kind of offhandedly mentioned this talking about House of the Dragon, but the word on the street is basically that Chris Storer, the showrunner and creator of The Bear, had an outline for 3 seasons. FX Hulu said we'd really love 4, and so they basically had to they had to tread water a little bit for season 3 to get to
the shit that they already wrote,
the ending, which would be in season 4 basically. So that is why you might get an episode like episode 1, and the other episodes might move the ball only a little bit compared to how seasons 1 and 2 felt. But as long as they bring that like Bear ethos, it's good stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's well acted, it's well written. They got to make something happen a little bit here. And I don't love when they just like kind of like lean into the screaming at each other, because I feel like we understand that part now. You can use it slightly more sparingly.
We just did it so much in season 2.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely feeling it's been a steady climb for me through these first 5 episodes. So like I'm excited to see the back half and what they do with it.
Yeah, very stoked. Obviously, Barrett and I will be further discussing The Bear Season 3, Episodes 1 through 5 on patreon.com/oystersclamscockles this week. And then, like I said at the top of the show, next week we will be doing Episodes 6 through 10. And that will also have a coinciding Patreon episode. Get on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles today with over 2,100 members of the Clam fam at this point enjoying hotline calls from listeners, further discussion and analysis. And honestly, frankly, during the Bear, probably going to be a lot of tangents. We're probably going to talk about a lot of random stuff too. So if y'all are down to hear me and Barrett talk about things that aren't necessarily the show we're covering, this would be the time to get on Patreon. And you've heard me ad nauseum talk about how much great content is on Patreon, so I won't do any further sales pitching to you now. Just go. It's a 7-day free trial. You don't even have to pay anything for 7 days. Just get in there and see if I'm telling the truth about how much content is on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. Check out the Ross Bolin podcast. If you're an F1 fan, I know we're in summer break right now, but when that kicks back off, Bolin Media's premier F1 show, Formula Bone, will be providing all of the F1 coverage you need all season long, hosted by Jared J-Bone Borislow. Go to youtube.com/@FormulaBone and check out @FormulaBone on all the social media platforms. Follow me, Ross Bolin, on Twitter and Instagram @WRBolin. Mr. Dudley, where can the people follow you?
I am @Barrett Dudley on Twitter and Instagram as well.
Go to bolinmedia.com/shop to grab yourself some merch. Like I think we have an original Burf, the Bear-inspired t-shirt available in there somewhere. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Looking forward to seeing takes from y'all about the Bear on social media and hearing them on Patreon. Until next time, hands! I need hands!